Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to JKWD Podcast, where we are winding down toward the end of 2020. We're going to talk about that in a couple of weeks, actually. We got an episode lined up on finishing strong, but we'll save that for another day. I'm going to pause a second and let Kelvin take a sip of his coffee and then say, hey, Kelvin, how you doing today?
As I picked it up, I'm like, God, I hope he doesn't do anything silly because I don't want coffee all over my computer right now. I don't. I'm doing fine, Mr. Shear. Thank you very much. It's so nice to be back with you once again, having this wonderful weekly podcast we produce. And you changed your microphone, so we got this awesome voice coming from the Josh Shear today.
Change the microphone, shave the beard. I
wasn't going to comment on that because every time I've seen you for the last couple 3 weeks, you've looked different. And I'm like, I'm just not even going to do
it. Probably true. Yeah.
Down to a goatee now. Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, life is good. It's been a little cooler here in central New York, but today, as it happens, it is a little cooler. But the sky is beautiful. There's no precipitation, which is not. I couldn't have said that yesterday. And things just look nice, and I'm comfortable. If I didn't know better, I think it was warm outside. But since I've been outside 3 times this morning, I know better. But it's still not typical Syracuse winter yet.
That's true. Well,
life is good. How about you?
It is that time of the year, and since this comes out after all of that, happy Halloween, Buen Dia de los Muertos, and we hope that your trick-or-treating went well if you were allowed to trick-or-treat. We hope that your remembrances were wonderful, I suppose. I don't know what the greeting's supposed to be.
Well, get a lot of candy and it's all safe.
Right. We're brought to you today by Vitamin K Daily, 10 years old and still going strong.
Yes.
Yep. Philosophical. I knew I was going to do it. Philosophical supplements for your attitude health.
I heard it coming. It was good. There you go.
Your daily dose of positive from the Prince of Positive himself. Get 4 weeks free. Go to vitaminkdaily.com. It's 4 weeks free. After that, $24.95 a year. Not a bad deal to wake up and hear an awesome day. We even got an I love you this morning with our sign off.
There you go.
Again, that's vitaminkdaily.com. Go get you some. 4 weeks free. Let's play the music. Podcast, where we talk about better humanhood and teach you how to dominate your world. You ready? Here we go. Someday I'm going to remember to call up the website so that I can actually read that phrase. Philosophical.
Well, I don't even know that it's on the website, to be honest with you. It's been so long, but I'm thinking about doing a new website.
Yeah.
Just it's
if
time
I may,
to do a
if
new
I may say so, it's time.
Yeah, it's time to do a new website and nice little landing page and may even expand it, because I could actually, if I did it right, I might be able to combine some vitamin K excerpts along with podcasts, get a double audience over there, have a little fun.
Does that mean you're thinking about starting up the podcast again?
Don't mess with me. Oh yeah, I walked into that, didn't I?
Just asking.
I did. I haven't stopped podcasting. I just paused. It's different.
That is true.
The intention is different.
That's true. I have stopped 2 podcasts with intention.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
as somebody who has stopped podcasts, yes.
Yes. So I can every once in a while I get this really needs to be a podcast. So it's coming back. It's coming back.
Good. Well,
so
I want to read a quote. I was recently listening on audiobook while I
you don't do that.
Did some. I do actually. You know, this week I finished a novel I've been reading in hard copy, but I've read 4 audio, but I've listened to 4 audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I can listen to audiobooks while I'm painting a room and while I'm walking the dog.
Okay.
And you know, so I've actually listened to 4, and one of them was Andre Agassi's autobiography, and a tennis player.
Mm-hmm.
Agassi, from my memory of him, and the book stirred up those memories. That was a tennis player in high school, and I grew up playing tennis. I was playing as early as elementary school.
Oh wow!
Agassi really hit the national scene about the time I was 11, 12 years old, and he came out with like long flowing hair and neon shirts and jean shorts, and he was the real punk of tennis, and he never felt like that. That was just him finding himself. But
right.
But tennis to that point had always been a really buttoned up game. It was played by skinny people with wooden rackets, and it was just starting to move into and everybody wore conservative clothes, and there was this guy with outrageous hair, or for the sport, outrageous clothing. Like he looked like he was in a hair band, in a hair metal band from the 80s, and it was the first we saw. It was the first I had seen of that. The first, like, the world had seen of that in tennis. Right? He was like 17, 18 when he came to national prominence, and then like a lot of the like a lot of those bands, he kind of disappeared in the early 90s or the mid 90s. He went off tour for a year and gained some weight, and when he came back, he was stronger and shaved his head, and he was like a grown up, and he played professionally until he was much older than a lot of professional players play. I mean, I think he was 36 or 37 when he retired, and that is well past prime in a very athletic sport. But one of the things he said in his book, and after winning his first Grand Slam, a win doesn't feel as good as a loss feels bad, and the good feeling doesn't last as long as the bad. So I'll read that again because it's what we're gonna talk about. A win doesn't feel as good as a loss feels bad, and the good feeling doesn't last as long as the bad. It sounds so sad to say it the first time, but when you break it down, I think there's a way to solve it in our personal lives. We feel those losses, we feel those failures, we feel those misses way more strongly than we feel those wins, those successes, and we feel them for so much longer.
And even when they're not a big loss,
right? Yeah, it feels magnified, but it means that if we set ourselves up for lots of little wins, then we can keep feeling that feeling of success, keep feeling that feeling of winning. I heard a podcast recently, and I don't remember what it was, but the guy who was being interviewed said he puts everything on his to-do list for the day, so he can check everything off. Like he puts get out of bed, he puts drink a glass of water, drink a cup of coffee, go to the bathroom, like he take a shower. Like he puts everything on his to-do list so that he can get that little dopamine hit, that little serotonin hit of checking something off his to-do list. And if you can cross 50 things off your to-do list in a day, that's 50 little yeah over and over and over.
You gotta have to program that in, because I have been known to go back, and I use a Franklin planner. I don't know if anybody uses Franklin planners anymore, but they're still around, so I still.
So somebody must, right?
I started at least one of us. It could be they're manufacturing it just for me, but they have the to-do list, and I have been known at the end of it, because sometimes I forget to use it. I used to have a ritual. I used to have a ritual where I'd plan out my stuff the night before, put it in there so I could use that to check it off the next day. Sometimes I don't do that. So sometimes I go back and write the stuff down on it so I can check it off. And it doesn't necessarily feel as good that day, but the next day when I'm trying to remember what the heck did I do yesterday, I can actually go back and document. There's proof that I did not waste my entire day just sitting around the house doing nothing.
Well, I think it was James Altucher that I heard the term done list from. I think he had said somewhere that he wasn't interested in a to-do list because it just meant more stuff that he had to get to, but he would write a done list at the end of the day.
Yeah. So
that he could look back and go, wow, look at all the stuff I did. Look at all the stuff I accomplished. Because if you get a 50 item to-do list and you get to 49 of them, that last one looms. That one you didn't get to looms bigger than the 49 you did. But
especially if it was something you put high up on the to-do list for the day.
Yeah, and if you get to the end of that list, if you get to the end of your day and you write 49 things down on your done list, then you had a good day.
A good day. Yep. Even if they're small, because it's the little things that get us anyway. So, incidentally, are you hearing that lawnmower?
No.
Good. Love this microphone. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I heard a similar conversation last week about the wins and the loses. Sometimes we do hold on to the wins too long. There's a dichotomy here. There's a little bit of because we can, for instance, I have some stuff on my wall, and I actually did a podcast and a blog post about this at one point. A bunch of stuff I have done in my life. I used to be president of the Professional Photographer Society for the state. I did a lot of cool stuff there. And I've got another thing over here. I became a distinguished Toastmaster back in 2018, and I've got all this stuff on my wall that I've done. And sometimes there's a danger of living there and forgetting to come do something today.
Yeah, Bruce Springsteen did a fairly popular song about that called "Glory Days."
Yeah.
Where he goes back to the bar, and guys are still talking about being a pitcher in high school, and the parties, and that they were king at back then, and that's still who they're trying to be 20, 30 years later.
Yeah.
And
they feel good in the head, but they don't cash those. well, some of those did it right where they get residuals. I mean, royalties
Right.
back from it. But generally speaking, you can't
But
cash those, you know?
but still, yeah. Yeah. The world wants to know what you've done for me lately, but
Right.
on top of that, um, on top of that, it
We need
hurts
to know.
us. Yeah, it hurts us to um, be living that far in the past.
Yep.
And you've been out of high school a little longer than I have, but I remember when um, I looked at the first time I looked at I went to grab a beer at a bowling alley, and they had one of those. You must have been born before this date to be served,
Uh-huh.
and it was like the month after my high school graduation.
Yeah.
Like my high school graduation is old enough to drink. Uh,
Yep.
and I knew there were people who still lived in hometown, and that there were people who married their high school sweethearts, and that uh, there were people who did who were still living there. But I also knew that there were a lot of people who had gone on to do good things, and it's a matter of which one do you want to be. I know which one I want to be. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So it but back to the feeling is, yeah, it's good to remember those wins. And I was reading recently, strangely enough, I've been reading recently and about this syndrome, talking about the wins, and that we feel the losses longer.
Yeah.
Well, as a matter of fact, I was talking about to some folks last week, and they were talking, and actually the conversation was, I don't mind winning, I just don't like to lose. And in this particular case, they were actually talking about an encounter with Michael Jordan, because Michael Jordan every once in a while has events where he lets people who are not pro ball players, and I forget exactly what this one was. Don Yaeger? Is it Don Yaeger? I gotta have to look up his name. Is a guy who was talking about this. And he had a thing where, Michael Jordan was going to let him shoot, and he got a shot off on Michael Jordan at one of these retreats, and Michael Jordan was like upset because this guy, who incidentally was significantly shorter and rounder than he was at the time, did it, and he was having a conversation with him later about, because he never let him forget. He always like, that guy. You keep telling that story, don't you? And the whole basic thing was, he says, the quote I believe was, I never planned to be second in anything I've ever done. So there are people who, winning is all they know. Sometimes the mindset, winning is one thing, but sometimes you get really, really, really grumpy if you're not like at the top. And I've seen some of those go badly.
Well,
Seen some of those go badly, but at least they're not making a habit of losing and going, just another day, got something, because that makes you seem like you have no ambition. I have said often in the past, and I look at myself from time to time, because I say I'm passionate about some things. And I've heard other people say that, well, I'm passionate about this. And then I go, how many people know I'm doing this? How many people know I'm doing that? And it's like, well, if you're really, really passionate about something, chances are somebody should be able to notice. So if you're saying you're passionate about this, but nobody knows you're doing it, maybe you're not as passionate, or maybe I'm not as passionate as I said I was. And maybe the part of that is maybe I'm afraid to lose because
Well,
the short-term losses, they feel bad, but a lot of times we can't get to the wins without going through a couple of those.
right. Well, so I mean, a couple of things. First, you know, being passionate about something doesn't mean that you have to ever share it with anybody. Um, you can be passionate about jigsaw puzzles and only do puzzles for you, and you can be passionate about painting, and it can just be something that you do for you, right? You don't have to put your passions out into the world as long as you're doing them for yourself. However, if you are looking for success in a field or in something that needs to be done in public, yeah, you're going to need to fail a few times. And those failures, like we said, those losses, they hurt and they linger. But if you want to get to a good win, you got to live through some of those failures. And if you got to set up some easy wins on your way, do that, because you can't. We're really not built to feel failure after failure after failure.
Right.
And you can set up easy wins. You can. It feels good to tick stuff off your to-do list. It feels good to sweat if you're doing it intentionally. It feels good. It feels good to hug somebody, and you can make a free hug sign, and somebody will take you up on it. It might not be who you want. It might not be the people you want to take you up on it, but hugs feel good.
Yeah.
But hugs feel good, whoever they come from. Really,
it sounds like you started going down that MKMMA adventure, because I was just getting ready to mention that for the MKE, when we were doing that, they would teach us to set up these easy wins we knew we could do, and to do them because the mind gets used to the win.
Mm-hmm.
And since we programmed the mind to do these things and win, we've programmed it when we pick a little bigger something, we're also programming it to keep going with that. So consistency is huge. It's huge. And I find when I have my worst days, it's because I had been doing something consistently and then I stopped. Momentum can fall quickly when consistency drops.
It's true.
So, yeah, but the losses do, and sometimes the losses we feel aren't. They're not big losses that we feel are huge losses, right?
But we feel them hard. We feel them big, and we feel them long, and that's one reason to have good people in your circle. When you're feeling that loss, when you're having trouble coming back from that loss, to have somebody give you a little perspective on it.
Yes.
And
perspective, good.
Maybe along the way, give you something you can set you up for a win. Give you something that you can achieve with enough effort to make it feel like you did something, but not so much that failure is a possibility.
Right.
Because piling losses on top of losses is not conducive to a good feeling. But even sandwiching little wins between losses is a big deal.
Absolutely. in my Toastmasters group yesterday, we had a young lady who gave a speech about doing the Appalachian Trail, the whole from Georgia to wherever it was going, and
to Maine. Yeah,
she had said before she had started doing that, the longest hike she'd been on was probably 4 miles. She told a really impacting story about going on this journey and how tough it was, and at a point, and we may have had this conversation too when we were talking to our young lady about climbing. Was it Mount Everest?
Yeah, Cathy O'Dowd.
Yeah, Cathy O'Dowd. Yeah, that it got to the point where you can't look at the whole trip anymore. She started out in Georgia. She's going to go to Maine, and she at a point she couldn't look at the whole trip anymore. She just had to concentrate on getting to that next spot.
Yep.
The next place where they could go, because you can feel a wind for that next spot, even though it's not all the way there, but the consistent winds of the interim points keep you going to the big point. And that was a good speech to hear last night, because every once in a while it's like, oh yeah, you forget about those points in the middle. Every destination is a collection of points in between. So as long as you're making progress, that can feel better, and it doesn't feel so much like a loss because you're taking it in smaller chunks.
Right. Well, and that's again, that's a bunch of small wins, and we've talked about thinking about what's next. So if you're through hiking the Appalachian Trail, and what does that take, 75, 80 days or more?
I'll take your word for it. I'm sure.
If every day that you stay on that trail is a win, every day you don't quit is a win, even if it hurts, even if you're having to pitch a tent out in the rain.
Or on top of a snowbank, as she mentioned yesterday.
I was going to say, even if you mistimed things and you wound up snowed in, I don't know how many people go Maine to Georgia versus how many people go Georgia to Maine. But my guess is that you want to be closer to Georgia in September, October than you want to be to Maine.
Thinking you're right.
I mean, but those are mountains in North Georgia where the trail runs through, and you go through you go through mountains in Tennessee, and you go through mountains in West Virginia, and you're hiking at altitude. It's gonna snow in the fall, so
I'll just read about those. Thank you very much. So I'll have to take smaller wins on my destination, or at least different wins. So yeah, that's that. So have you had some nice incremental wins lately that keep you moving?
Well, so I have a little different psyche when it comes to this. I am in it for the work most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I set up kind of a long-term house project actually.
Mm-hmm.
So we're redoing the garage, redoing one of the bedrooms, kind of what would be a dining room that we don't use as a dining room. But it all has to kind of work together. And things have to be done in order. So, that's my current project. And we've been working on it probably for 6 weeks, because I get a couple hours here, a couple hours there.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm checking things off that list. I had a big loss in the last 5 weeks or so. I had been running a lot. I had been training for races. the races got canceled due to COVID. I got sick. And I haven't put 5 miles together in a while, and I'm looking forward to getting back to that. I'm going to try to get out early tomorrow morning, actually, or Saturday. The weather is perfect. I love when it's like 50, 55 out. When it's like long sleeve jersey and beanie weather. That's really what I love to run in. So I'm gonna get out there for a little while tomorrow morning before work. But yeah, that whole thing came crashing in on me. But yeah, I've been checking off little things with this house project. I got the office moved. But
awesome, looks good too, but
thank you. But as part of this move in the office, like the rest of the garage is a mess because it's storing all the stuff that's going to go in the rest of the house. So this morning I got, over the last week, I've ordered stuff from Home Depot, and it's shown up over the last week, and I got a coat of paint on the room this morning. So, after our call, I'll be able to, it'll be dry enough to tell if it needs a second coat or just some touch-ups here and there. So I'll go check that out. And then next week, I won't be able to get to it over the next few days because, that's just how my schedule works. But I know that, come middle of next week, I'll be able to spend some time moving stuff in there and, moving the painting stuff out of there and, getting furniture moved around. And that always feels good because even if the furniture is not heavy, and I can tell you this desk that I moved for the office is super heavy. It's giant. Even if the furniture isn't heavy, it looks like you've accomplished something because it's big.
Yeah.
And it leaves a big empty spot where you had where stuff was taking up space and now it's not anymore. It's always.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a big win, even if it's 45 seconds of work.
Absolutely.
That feels good. So doing that, incremental wins, followed by long pauses and more incremental wins. One thing that it's helped is often when I hit a roadblock in my running, because I've started and stopped so many times, and it's rare that I stop with intention to stop.
Right.
Normally I stop because I've hit a snag in my sleep or in my fitness or just in the time or space that I have to do it in. And typically that comes with a depression, and it comes with putting on weight, and I haven't had any of that. I've been able to maintain the 18 or 20 pounds or so that I lost while I was training, and by and large, I've been able to keep my spirits up. And despite this ongoing COVID semi-quarantine we're in, it's and all the while through it, covering just another nasty presidential campaign. They're getting worse. And actually, this isn't as bad as 2016, but the campaigns have been getting more and more toxic every cycle. I think this wasn't as bad because we didn't have a Republican primary to go through. We had a Republican primary and a Democratic primary last time that we had to cover. So, that at least the rhetoric part of that ends this week. as well. So, who knows? We haven't it's not actually election day yet, so we don't know what the count looks like. We don't know what the lawsuits look like. We don't know. We don't know that stuff.
Yep.
But
find out soon.
Yeah, but there won't be any the pre-election rhetoric is done.
Yeah.
So that's nice. Just because that stuff wears on the. When you hear people being mean to each other, it gets in your brain.
It does. It does. So luckily we don't have that problem on this show.
It's true.
Yeah, we can talk about almost anything.
Yeah. And we can talk about it at length with many tangents, as we have shown today.
With many tangents. So, yeah. So, we're here.
Set yourself up for little wins. We do it every week. We publish on Monday every week. We have this is 231 straight weeks. Assuming this one comes out on time. And all of them have.
It is my intention.
All of them have. Well, and mine too. Yeah, we rely on your production work, but I got a job too. I'm the one who actually uploads it. So
yes, you are.
And then we also rely on the technology that allows us to send them back and forth, and we rely on our web host. We rely on the podcast host. We rely on RSS feeds to stay up and the internet to keep going. And we rely on you to keep listening. So thanks for listening, and rate, review, share, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. Show notes and more at jkwdpodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends, and we will see you next week. Bye. A Better Humanhood production.